When I called my son Caleb about his wedding, my daughter-in-law, Brianna, snatched the phone and sneered, "Oh, that was yesterday, old man. We only invited people who actually matter." Her words hit me like a freight train. People who matter. For 3 years, I had drained $41,000 of my life savings, foolishly believing I was buying love and respect. But in that moment, staring at the pure contempt in her eyes, something inside me shattered. The naive old man who kept writing checks was dying. In his place, something far more dangerous was awakening. After all, what's more terrifying than a man who has nothing left to lose? Have you ever experienced being ignored by a loved one like this? Share in the comments where you heard this story and let me know how you would react in Grant's situation. When I picked up the phone that Tuesday afternoon to ask my son Caleb about his wedding plans, I never expected my world to shatter into 1,000 pieces. The Arizona sun was blazing through my living room window in Phoenix, casting long shadows across the empty house that had become my prison of loneliness since my wife Margaret passed 3 years ago. "Dad," Caleb's voice sounded nervous, distant. "Hey son, I was just wondering when you and Brianna were planning the ceremony. I want to make sure I have the right suit ready, maybe help with some of the arrangements." The phone was suddenly snatched away. Brianna's voice cut through the line like a rusty blade dripping with contempt I had never heard directed at me before. "Oh, we got married yesterday, old man. We only invite people who actually matter." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. People who matter. I stood there in my living room, gripping the phone so hard, my knuckles turned white, feeling like someone had just ripped my heart out and stomped on it. "What do you mean you got married yesterday?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "You heard me," Brianna sneered. "It was a beautiful ceremony. Small, intimate, just the people we actually wanted there. You know, people who contribute something meaningful to our lives." I could hear Caleb mumbling something in the background, but she shushed him like a child. This woman who had lived off my generosity for 3 years was talking to me like I was garbage on the street. For 3 years, I had been their personal ATM. $500 every month for rent, groceries when their refrigerator was empty, furniture for their apartment, emergency money when Brianna had her medical issues, car payments when Caleb lost his job, birthday gifts, Christmas presents, anniversary dinners I was never invited to. I started calculating in my head, and the number made me sick. $41,000. $41,000 of my retirement savings money. My late wife Margaret and I had saved penny by penny through 40 years of honest work. Money I had given freely because I thought I was helping my family. Because I thought I was loved. "Dad, are you still there?" Caleb's voice was back on the line, weak and pathetic. "I'm here," I managed to say. "Look, it wasn't personal. Brianna's family wanted something small, and we thought—" "You thought what, Caleb? That your father didn't matter enough to witness the most important day of your life?" Silence. Then Brianna grabbed the phone again. "Listen, Grant, we're adults. We make our own decisions. Just because you throw money at us doesn't mean you own us or get to control our lives. Throw money at them, as if my love, my sacrifice, my sleepless nights worrying about their future meant nothing. As if I was some pathetic old fool trying to buy affection instead of a father who would have given anything to see his only child happy." "I see," I said quietly. "Good. Now about this month's rent payment, it's a little late and—" I hung up. I stood there in the silence of my empty house, surrounded by pictures of Caleb as a boy. The Little League trophies I had cheered for. The graduation photos I had been so proud of. The man I had raised alone after Margaret died, thinking I was building something meaningful. Thinking I was creating a legacy of love and family. But I wasn't a father to them. I was a resource. A bank account with legs and a heartbeat. That night as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, something inside me died. The broken, desperate father who had spent 3 years begging for scraps of affection from his own son. The man who had confused generosity with love, who had mistaken being used for being needed. But something else was being born in that darkness. Something cold and calculating. Something that had finally learned the difference between love and manipulation. They wanted to play games with my heart. Fine. But they were about to discover that this old man still had a few moves left. I woke up the next morning feeling like a completely different person. The Arizona sunrise painted my bedroom walls gold, but for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about calling Caleb. I wasn't wondering if Brianna needed anything. I was planning something else entirely. After coffee, I drove straight to Desert Community Bank on Camelback Road. Mr. Chen, my account manager for 15 years, greeted me with his usual warm smile. "Mr. Whitaker here for the usual monthly transfer. Actually, I'm here to cancel it. All of them." His smile faltered. Cancel the automatic transfers. Are you sure you've had these set up for 3 years? I'm absolutely certain. I also want to remove both Caleb and Brianna from having any access to my accounts. As he processed the paperwork, my phone rang. Caleb's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring. Then it rang again and again. When I got home, there were 6 missed calls and frantic text messages. Dad, the bank called. They said you canceled our transfers. This has to be a mistake. Please call me back. I deleted every message without responding. Around noon, my phone rang again. This time I answered. Dad, what the hell is going on? Caleb's voice was panicked. The rent is due tomorrow, and the money isn't there. That's correct, I said calmly. What do you mean that's correct? You always handle the rent. We're counting on you. You were counting on me. Past tense. Now you're counting on yourselves. I could hear Brianna shouting in the background, her voice shrill with rage. Then she grabbed the phone. Grant, what kind of sick game are you playing? You can't just abandon your family because your feelings got hurt about some stupid wedding. I'm not abandoning anyone, Brianna. I'm simply no longer funding adults who treat me like trash. You're being ridiculous. We never treated you badly. You're our family. Family? I laughed coldly. Family doesn't exclude each other from life's most important moments. Family doesn't call their father an old man who doesn't matter. I was just upset yesterday. I didn't mean... You meant every word, and now you're dealing with the consequences. Grant, listen to me. No, you listen to me. For 3 years, I've been your personal bank. I've paid your rent, bought your food, funded your lifestyle. And what did I get in return? Contempt. Disrespect. Yesterday's final insult of being told I don't matter. Dad, please. Caleb was back on the phone. Here's how this works now. I continued, my voice steady as steel. You want my money, earn my respect first. You want my help? Start treating me like a human being instead of a resource. You're being unreasonable. I'm being reasonable for the first time in 3 years. The ATM is officially closed. I hung up and turned off my phone completely. As I sat in my quiet living room, I noticed my neighbor, Vivian Torres, watching from her front window across the street. She was a woman about my age, recently moved in, and I'd seen her observing my house with what seemed like professional interest. Something told me Vivian Torres was going to be important in whatever came next, because this was just the beginning. 3 days of blessed silence ended when I heard car doors slamming in my driveway. Through the window, I saw Caleb and Brianna marching toward my front door, their faces twisted with rage. I didn't move from my recliner. Let them knock. They didn't knock. The door flew open. They still had keys. Keys I had given them when I thought they were family. What the hell do you think you're doing, old man? Brianna stormed into my living room, her voice dripping with venom. Gone was any pretense of respect. This was her true face. Caleb followed like a whipped dog, avoiding my eyes. I'm sitting in my own home, I replied calmly. The question is, what are you doing here without permission? Without permission? Brianna's laugh was ugly. This is family business, Grant. You can't just cut us off and think there won't be consequences. She stepped closer, jabbing her finger toward my face. You think you're so smart, don't you? Sitting here in your little power trip punishing us because we didn't invite you to one stupid ceremony. One stupid ceremony? You mean your wedding, the most important day of my son's life? Get over it, she screamed. We're adults. We make our own choices. Just because you're desperate and lonely doesn't mean we have to include you in everything. Desperate and lonely. That's how she saw me. How they both saw me. Brianna, maybe we should... Caleb started weakly. Shut up, Caleb. She whirled on him. Your father is trying to manipulate us with money. Then she turned back to me, eyes blazing with contempt. Here's the deal, you pathetic old fool. You're going to restart those transfers today, or we're going to make your life very difficult. We know lawyers, social workers. We can have you declared mentally incompetent faster than you can blink. The threat hung in the air like poison. She was threatening to have me declared insane to get my money. Is that so? I asked quietly. That's exactly so. You think you can just abandon your responsibilities? We have bills because of promises you made. We have a lifestyle because you encouraged it. You created this situation, and now you're going to fix it. I looked at Caleb, who was staring at the floor like a coward. And you? Is this what you want to threaten your father? He finally looked up, and for a moment, I saw the boy I had raised. But then Brianna elbowed him sharply. We want what's fair, he mumbled, what we were promised. I never promised you anything beyond love and support. Brianna stepped closer, her face inches from mine. Listen carefully, you senile old bastard. We're not leaving until you call that bank and restore our access. And if you don't, we'll make sure everyone knows how confused and unstable you've become. Something cold settled in my chest. This woman was pure evil, and my son was letting her destroy our family. Get out of my house, I said quietly. What did you say? Get out of my house, now, both of you. Brianna's face turned purple. You can't throw us out. We have rights. We're family. Family doesn't threaten each other. Family doesn't call each other senile bastards. You're not family. You're parasites. You'll regret this, she shrieked as I opened the front door wide. The only thing I regret is not doing this 3 years ago. As they stormed out, Brianna turned back one last time. This isn't over, Grant, not even close. I closed the door and locked it, then walked to the window. Across the street, Vivian Torres stepped onto her porch. She had been watching the whole thing. Our eyes met and she gave me a small nod of understanding. Something told me I was about to have my first real ally in this war. 20 minutes after Caleb and Brianna drove away, there was a gentle knock at my door. I opened it to find Vivian Torres holding 2 cups of coffee and wearing an expression that suggested she had something important to say. Mr. Whitaker, I'm Vivian Torres from across the street. I think we need to talk. Something in her tone made me step aside immediately. Please come in. She handed me coffee and settled into my chair with the confidence of someone accustomed to taking charge. I witnessed what just happened, she began, and I have to tell you, your daughter-in-law's behavior concerns me greatly. You heard all that. Grant, may I call you Grant? I'm a retired private investigator. 25 years with Torres Investigations here in Phoenix. When you've been in my line of work, you develop instincts about people. A private investigator. Suddenly, her watchful behavior made perfect sense. And what do your instincts tell you about Brianna? Vivian leaned forward, her dark eyes serious. That woman is dangerous. The threats she made about having you declared incompetent? I've seen this pattern before. She's not just greedy, Grant. She's calculating. What do you mean? I've been observing since I moved in 6 months ago. Brianna leaves every Tuesday and Thursday at exactly 9 a.m. Gone for the entire day, returns at evening. When I asked around, nobody knows where she goes. That's unusual for someone who supposedly doesn't work. My blood began to chill. You think she's hiding something? I think she's living a double life. And Grant, I have a strong suspicion you're not her first victim. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Vivian pulled out a small notebook. 3 weeks ago, I followed her. She drove to Las Vegas, 4-hour round trip. She spent the day in a residential neighborhood, acting very comfortable there. Maybe visiting friends? Maybe. Vivian's tone suggested she didn't believe that for a second. But the way she moved around that house, the way she interacted with certain people there, it was like she belonged, like she had another life entirely. The coffee cup trembled in my hands. Are you saying she's not who she claims to be? I'm saying there are pieces of Brianna's story that don't add up. And in my experience, when someone works that hard to keep secrets while draining an elderly person's bank account, those secrets are usually explosive. I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, hope mixed with righteous anger. What do you propose we do? We get proof. Real, solid, undeniable proof of who Brianna really is and what she's been hiding. Then we expose her for whatever fraud she's running. You'd be willing to help me. Grant, I've been retired for 2 years and bored out of my mind. Taking down a con artist who preys on families, that sounds like the perfect way to get back in the game. She stood and extended her hand. Partners, I shook it firmly. Partners. As Vivian gathered her things, she turned back one more time. Grant, whatever we discover about Brianna, it's going to get ugly before it gets better. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the contempt in Brianna's voice, the cowardice in my son's eyes, the 3 years of manipulation and lies. Vivian, I've been nice my whole life. It's time I learned how to be dangerous. 2 weeks after forming our alliance, Vivian called me at 6 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Grant, she's on the move. If we're going to get answers, today's the day. Within 30 minutes, we were following Brianna's silver Honda on Interstate 10 toward Las Vegas. Vivian drove while I sat gripping the door handle, my stomach churning with dread and anticipation. Remember, Vivian said, whatever we see, we document everything. Photos, videos, addresses. We need evidence that will hold up. 4 hours later, we watched Brianna pull into the driveway of a modest house in a quiet Las Vegas suburb. She didn't hesitate. She walked straight to the front door and let herself in with her own key. She has a key, I whispered. She has a key, Vivian confirmed grimly. We parked across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, the front door opened and Brianna emerged. But she wasn't alone. A man in his 30s came out behind her, tall, with dark hair. He wrapped his arms around her waist and kissed her deeply. Not the quick peck of a friend, the passionate kiss of a lover. My heart stopped. But that wasn't the worst part. 2 children came running out, a boy about 8 and a girl around 5. They threw themselves at Brianna, hugging her legs and chattering excitedly. Mommy, Mommy, you're home. Mommy? The word hit me like a sledgehammer. I watched my daughter-in-law scoop up the little girl and spin her around while the boy grabbed her hand possessively. "Are you getting this?" I asked through numb lips. "Every second," Vivian replied, her camera clicking rapidly. "Grant, I'm so sorry." The man put his arm around Brianna's shoulders as they walked toward a minivan. He was wearing a wedding ring. So was she. But it wasn't the ring Caleb had given her. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on the children's ages, at least 8 years, maybe longer." 8 years. She was already married with children when she met Caleb. Everything, their entire relationship, their marriage, had been a lie from the beginning. We followed them to a nearby park, where I watched Brianna push her daughter on swings while her son played on monkey bars. She looked genuinely happy in a way I had never seen her with Caleb. The man sat on a bench reading. Every few minutes, one of the children would run over to show him something, and he would smile with the easy affection of a devoted father. This was her real family, her real life. My son was nothing more than a paycheck to fund it. "Look at their license plate," Vivian said softly. I squinted through the camera lens. The Nevada plates read Torres 2. Torres? So she's not even really a Whitaker. She's probably not even really Brianna. That might be a completely fake identity. We spent 3 hours documenting everything. The house address, license plates, photos of her with the children and man, video of her using her key, evidence of a life that had nothing to do with the woman bleeding my bank account dry. As we drove back toward Phoenix, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Margaret died. Crystalline clarity about what needed to happen next. "Vivian," I said as Las Vegas disappeared behind us, "I want to destroy her completely." "Grant, I understand you're angry." "I'm not angry anymore. This is something else entirely." I turned to look at my partner. "This is war, and I intend to win." The Monday after our Las Vegas discovery, Vivian and I sat in the office of Marcus Thompson, one of Phoenix's most respected family law attorneys. The walls were lined with legal books, but what impressed me most was the steel in his eyes when we explained our situation. "Let me understand this," Marcus said, reviewing our photos and videos. "Your daughter-in-law has been living a double life for years. She's married to another man, has children with him, and has been using your son to fund her real family." "Exactly right," I replied. "And she's threatened to have you declared mentally incompetent if you don't continue the payments. She called me a senile old bastard and said she had lawyers who could destroy me." Marcus leaned back, a predatory smile spreading across his face. "Mr. Whitaker, in 30 years of practice, I've rarely seen a case this clear-cut. What Brianna has done isn't just morally reprehensible, it's multiple felonies. Fraud, bigamy, elder abuse, extortion. What can we do? We can destroy her legally and financially, but first we need bulletproof evidence." Vivian pulled out a thick folder. "I've documented everything. Addresses, license plates, timestamps on all photos and videos. I also ran background checks on the Torres name from their plate." She slid papers across Marcus's desk. "Brianna Torres, her real name, has been married to Miguel Torres since 2012. They own that Las Vegas house jointly. She's listed as mother on both children's birth certificates. And here's the interesting part. She's done this before." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "I found records of 2 other elderly men in Arizona and California who filed complaints against women matching Brianna's description. Similar pattern. Marry their sons, drain finances, disappear when confronted." Marcus whistled. "So we're dealing with a professional con artist." "A very good one," Vivian confirmed. "But she got greedy this time. $41,000 was too good to walk away from." "What's our next step?" I asked. Marcus began typing. "First we file criminal charges. Fraud, bigamy, elder abuse. The district attorney will love this case. But Grant, I want to do something else first. Something more satisfying." He turned his screen toward us. "We're going to sue her in civil court for every penny she's stolen plus punitive damages. We're going to put liens on that Las Vegas house. We're going to freeze her accounts. When the criminal charges hit, she'll have nowhere to run and no resources to fight back." "Can we really do all that?" "With this evidence, we can do whatever we want. She committed crimes against you. The law is entirely on your side." Vivian leaned forward. "What about Caleb? He'll be devastated when he learns the truth." I felt cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Caleb made his choice when he allowed his wife to threaten and abuse me. He chose her over his father. Now he lives with the consequences. Marcus nodded approvingly. "Here's what we do. Tomorrow we file the civil suit. Wednesday we submit the criminal complaint. By Friday, Brianna Torres will discover that the senile old bastard she tried to intimidate has very sharp teeth." As we left Marcus's office, Vivian put her hand on my arm. "Grant, once we start this, there's no going back." "Are you absolutely sure?" I thought about Brianna's contempt, her threats, her lies. I thought about my son's cowardice and betrayal. 3 years of being treated like an ATM instead of a human being. Vivian, for 3 years I've been the victim in this story. The fool, the mark, the pathetic old man who could be manipulated. I look back at the law office building feeling more alive than I had in years. It's time for a new story, one where the old man fights back and wins. 3 weeks later, I walked into courtroom B of the Maricopa County Superior Court with Vivian by my side and Marcus leading the way. The room was packed. Local media had picked up the story of the elderly man fighting back against family fraud. Across the aisle, Brianna sat with her public defender, still playing the innocent daughter-in-law. She was dressed conservatively, trying to look sympathetic. But I could see panic in her eyes when she spotted me. Caleb sat behind her, looking like a broken man. He hadn't spoken to me since the charges were filed. Judge Patricia Williams, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, had a reputation for being tough on elder abuse cases. "Mr. Thompson, you may present your case," she said. Marcus stood with the confidence of a man holding a royal flush. "Your Honor, this case is about systematic abuse of a 78-year-old widower by a woman who isn't who she claims to be. The defendant, Brianna Torres, not Whitaker, has been living a double life for over 8 years. He gestured toward our evidence table. We will prove the defendant is married to another man, has 2 children with him, and has used the plaintiff's son in a fraud scheme costing over $41,000. Then Marcus began presenting our evidence. First came the Las Vegas photos. The courtroom fell silent as images of Brianna with her real husband and children filled the large screen. Her kissing Miguel Torres, playing with children who called her mommy, using her key to enter their house. "Objection," her public defender called desperately. "Overruled," Judge Williams said coldly. "The photos show relevant fraud evidence." Next came financial records. Marcus methodically went through every transfer, every bill, every emergency I had funded. The numbers painted a clear picture of systematic exploitation. But the moment that broke Brianna was when Marcus played the audio recording. "This recording was made during a confrontation at Mr. Whitaker's home," Marcus announced. Brianna's voice filled the courtroom. "Listen carefully, you senile old bastard. We're not leaving until you call that bank and restore our access. And if you don't, we'll make sure everyone knows how confused and unstable you've become." Judge Williams' expression hardened. People in the gallery gasped. Brianna buried her face in her hands, finally understanding her game was over. "I call Grant Whitaker to the stand," Marcus announced. I walked to the witness stand with my head high. For 3 years I had felt powerless. Today I felt like a giant. "Mr. Whitaker, how did you feel discovering your daughter-in-law's deception?" "I felt like a fool," I said clearly. "But more than that, I felt angry. Not just about the money, though $41,000 is my entire retirement cushion. I felt angry about the lies, the manipulation, the way she made me feel worthless while stealing from me to support her real family." "And how do you feel now?" I looked directly at Brianna, still hiding behind her hands. "I feel like I finally have my dignity back." When her lawyer tried to cross-examine me, he had nothing. No defense, no explanation, no way to counter our mountain of evidence. Judge Williams didn't deliberate long. "In 30 years on this bench, I have rarely seen such clear-cut elder abuse and fraud. Ms. Torres, you have systematically deceived and exploited a vulnerable elderly man while destroying multiple families." She turned to face Brianna directly. "I find you guilty on all counts. You are sentenced to 5 years in state prison and ordered to pay full restitution of $41,000 plus punitive damages totaling $200,000. The gavel came down like thunder. As bailiffs led Brianna away in handcuffs, she finally looked at me. The contempt was gone, replaced by something I'd never seen before: fear. Justice had been served, but my story wasn't over yet. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed with cameras and microphones. When one asked how I felt, I looked straight into the camera. "I feel like I finally remembered who I am. Not a victim, not an ATM, but a man who refuses to be disrespected." As the crowd dispersed, I saw Caleb standing alone by the courthouse steps, looking broken. He approached hesitantly, eyes red from crying. "Dad, I had no idea. I swear I didn't know about Miguel or the kids. I thought Brianna loved me." I studied my son's face. There was genuine shock, real pain, but also the same weakness that had let him stand by while his wife abused me. "I believe you didn't know about her other family, Caleb." Hope flickered in his eyes. "But you knew she was cruel to me. You heard her call me names, make threats, treat me like garbage, and you said nothing. You chose her side every time." "Dad, I was trying to keep the peace. You were trying to keep taking my money while letting your wife destroy my dignity." The hope in his eyes died. I'm sorry, Dad. Can we be a family again? I looked at this 32-year-old man who had never learned to stand up for what was right. Caleb, for 3 years, you watched your wife treat me like an ATM. You never defended me. When she threatened to have me declared insane, you stood there like a coward. I know I messed up, but there is no but, son. You made your choice. You chose her over me. Money over family. Easy over right. I turned to walk away, then stopped. The saddest part is, I would have helped you forever if you just treated me like a human being. All I wanted was respect and love. Instead, you gave me contempt and betrayal. Dad, please. Goodbye, Caleb. I walked away from my son for the last time, feeling nothing but relief. 6 months later, I was living in a beautiful Sedona apartment, surrounded by red rocks and endless blue skies. The restitution money had been paid in full. Brianna's Las Vegas house was sold to cover it. Vivian had become my closest friend. We spent our days exploring Arizona's natural wonders. She had given me something I thought I'd lost forever, the ability to trust again. I heard Caleb had moved back with his mother-in-law after Brianna's conviction. He was working 2 jobs, struggling with depression. Part of me felt bad for him, but only a very small part. One evening, watching the sunset from my balcony, Vivian asked if I ever regretted what I'd done. Never, I said without hesitation. For the first time in years, I wake up knowing no one is using me, manipulating me, or taking advantage of my kindness. I'm free, Vivian, truly free. And Caleb, will you ever forgive him? I thought for a long moment. Forgiveness isn't about him anymore. It's about me. I've forgiven myself for being naive, for confusing generosity with love, for allowing people to treat me badly, because I was afraid of being alone. I raised my wine glass toward the crimson sunset. I learned that being alone by choice is infinitely better than being surrounded by people who don't respect you. As stars appeared in the desert sky, I felt complete peace. My name is Grant Whittaker. I'm 78 years old, and I finally learned that self-respect isn't selfish. It's essential. As I sit here today, 1 year after that life-changing phone call, I want to share the most important lessons I've learned. Not just for other elderly people who might be facing similar betrayal stories, but for anyone who has ever felt taken advantage of by those they love. The first lesson is this: love should never have a price tag. Real love doesn't come with conditions, threats, or financial obligations. If someone only shows you affection when you're giving them money, that's not love. That's a transaction. And you deserve so much better than being someone's personal ATM. The second lesson took me 78 years to learn. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. For too long, I confused being generous with being weak. I thought that saying no meant I didn't love my family enough. But boundaries aren't walls built to keep people out. They're gates that only open for those who treat you with respect. God gave us wisdom for a reason, and part of that wisdom is knowing when to protect ourselves. The third lesson is perhaps the hardest. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we love most. These betrayal stories are becoming all too common in families today. Caleb was my son, my only child, the person I thought would always have my back. Learning that he was willing to let his wife abuse me for money was devastating, but it also taught me that blood doesn't automatically equal loyalty. The fourth lesson is about forgiveness, but not the kind most people expect. I didn't forgive Brianna because she didn't deserve it. I didn't forgive Caleb because he never truly asked for it. Instead, I forgave myself. I forgave myself for being naive, for staying in toxic situations too long. As the Lord teaches us, forgiveness is as much about freeing ourselves as it is about others. But the most important lesson of all is this: it's never too late to reclaim your life. At 78 years old, I thought my story was almost over. Like so many grandpa stories you hear, I thought I was too old to change too, set in my ways to start fresh. I was wrong. The day I decided to stop being a victim and start being a fighter was the day my real life began. Today I wake up every morning in my beautiful Sedona apartment, surrounded by friends who value me for who I am, not what I can give them. I travel when I want, spend my money on things that bring me joy, and sleep peacefully, knowing that no one is scheming to take advantage of my kindness. Vivian and I have started a support group for elderly people dealing with family financial abuse. We call it Silver Warriors because we've learned that age doesn't make you weak. Experience makes you dangerous to those who would try to exploit you. We share grandpa stories and grandma stories of triumph, showing that it's never too late to fight back. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in these betrayal stories, Please hear this. You have more power than you think. You have more options than they want you to believe. And you deserve more respect than they're giving you. Trust in God's plan for your life because He doesn't want you to live in misery and abuse. Don't wait until you're 78 to learn what I learned. Don't spend years funding people who see you as a resource instead of a person. Don't let anyone convince you that love means accepting abuse. Your money is yours. Your dignity is yours. Your peace of mind is yours. And anyone who tries to take those things from you isn't family. They're thieves wearing familiar faces. Stand up. Fight back. Reclaim your life. Unlike the typical grandpa stories where we just accept our fate, you can choose to be the hero of your own story. Because respect isn't bought, it's earned. And love without respect isn't love at all. My name is Grant Whitaker, and this is my story of learning that sometimes the greatest act of love is loving yourself enough to say, enough. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, it's never too late to become the hero of your own story.